Dr. Elena Martinez knelt in the red dust of Kepler 442b, carefully brushing dirt away from what looked like a piece of crystal. The alien world's twin suns beat down on her back as she worked. She had been digging in these ruins for 3 months, now always under the watchful eyes of her Zephyrian supervisors. The Zephyrians thought they knew everything. They had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, and they never let anyone forget it. With their tall, blue-skinned bodies and 4 arms, they looked down on every other race. Humans were especially low in their eyes. After all, humans had only been discovered 50 years ago on a small planet called Earth. Elena wiped sweat from her forehead and looked at the crystal in her hands. It was different from the others she had found. This one had strange markings carved into its surface. The marks looked almost like writing, but not like any alien language she knew. They reminded her of something, but she could not place what. "Human, what have you found?" The voice came from behind her. Elena did not need to turn around to know it was Overseer Thakmon. The Zephyrian's voice always carried that tone of disgust when he spoke to her. "Just another crystal fragment, Overseer," Elena said, keeping her voice steady. She had learned not to show excitement around the aliens. They would just take whatever she found and claim credit for the discovery. Thakmon's forearms crossed over his chest. "These ruins are worthless. The beings who built them were primitive. We waste time here." Elena nodded and pretended to agree, but inside she felt different. The more she dug, the more she believed these ruins were anything but primitive. The stones were cut with perfect precision. The crystals contained some kind of technology she did not understand. And the writing looked familiar in a way that made her heart race. After Thakmon left, Elena carefully wrapped the crystal and several others in cloth. She would study them later, away from alien eyes. For now, she continued digging in the approved areas, finding smaller pieces and documenting everything according to Zephyrian rules. That evening, in her small research tent, Elena connected her scanner to the crystals. The results made her gasp. The crystals were not just decorative. They were data storage devices, more advanced than anything the Galactic Coalition currently used. And they were old, very old. Her hands shook as she worked to decode the information. The crystals contained star maps showing hundreds of solar systems. Many of the systems were marked with symbols that made Elena's breath catch in her throat. She had seen those symbols before, carved into ancient stones on Earth, stones that were older than any human civilization. Elena stared at the data for hours. If this was real, it changed everything. The symbols on the crystals matched hieroglyphs, found in Earth's oldest archaeological sites that dated back 50,000 years or more. But how could that be possible? She opened a secure channel to the human research vessel Aurora, orbiting high above the planet. Captain Jake Sullivan answered immediately. "Elena, you look like you've seen a ghost," Jake said, his weathered face showing concern on her screen. "Jake, I need to send you something, but not through normal channels. The Zephyrians can't know about this." Jake's expression grew serious. "What did you find?" Elena glanced around her tent, making sure she was alone. "I found star maps, Jake. Ancient star maps that show systems across the galaxy, and the symbols, they match carvings from Earth. That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for 50 years. I know how it sounds, but the data is here. I'm encrypting it now and sending it to you through the emergency channel." Elena worked quickly, copying the crystal data to a secure drive. She used an old Earth encryption method that the aliens had never bothered to learn. Within minutes, the information was racing through space toward Jake's ship. Jake received the data package an hour later. His navigation officer, Lisa Park, helped him decode the files. What they saw made both humans fall silent. "These coordinates," Lisa whispered, "they're real systems. I can confirm at least 20 of them from our star charts." Jake studied the symbols that marked each system. "Elena's right, these look like the hieroglyphs from the Giza complex, but that's impossible." "Maybe not," Lisa said slowly. "What if human history is older than we think? What if we didn't start on Earth?" The idea was crazy, but the evidence was right in front of them. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Lisa, plot a course to the nearest system on this map. But keep it quiet. We tell the crew we're investigating asteroid mining opportunities. What about the Zephyrians? They don't need to know everything we do. Back on the planet, Elena continued her work. Each day brought new discoveries. More crystals, more data, more proof that whoever built these ruins had technology far beyond what the galaxy knew today. She found evidence of advanced metallurgy, quantum computers, and energy systems that could power entire worlds. But the most shocking discovery came on her fourth day of secret research. Deep in the ruins, in a chamber that Thakman had declared off-limits, Elena found something that made her question everything she thought she knew about human history. The chamber was small and circular, with walls covered in the same symbols she had found on the crystals. But in the center of the room stood a statue. It was carved from black stone and showed a figure in a flowing robe. The figure was clearly humanoid, but more than that, it was clearly human. Elena approached the statue carefully. The face was weathered by time, but the features were unmistakably human. The proportions, the bone structure, even the way the hair was carved, it all matched modern human anatomy perfectly. At the base of the statue, more symbols were carved into the stone. Elena recognized some of them from the crystals. Others were new, but they followed the same pattern. As she worked to translate them, a chill ran down her spine. The symbols told a story of builders and explorers, of those who came from the stars to create and nurture life, of a great civilization that stretched across the galaxy, seeding worlds with life and knowledge. And at the center of it all were beings that looked exactly like humans. Elena's hands trembled as she took pictures of everything. She had to be careful. If Thakman found out what she had discovered, the Zephyrians would destroy the evidence and probably her too. They could not allow anything to challenge their position as the galaxy's ruling race. That night, Elena sent another encrypted message to Jake. This time she included images of the statue and her translation of the symbols. Jake's response came back within hours. Elena, we're coming to get you. What you found changes everything. The coordinates you sent us led to something incredible. We found ruins, Elena. Ruins in space. And they're not empty. Elena felt her heart racing. What do you mean they're not empty? I mean, we found stasis chambers. Thousands of them. And Elena, the beings inside look exactly like us. Elena stared at the message, her mind reeling. Ancient humans in stasis chambers. Star maps showing a galactic civilization. Ruins that predated every known alien race. It was impossible, but the evidence was growing stronger every day. She looked back at the statue in the hidden chamber. The human face seemed to stare back at her across thousands of years, as if waiting for its descendants to finally understand the truth. The Zephyrians thought they ruled the stars. The entire galactic coalition believed they were the apex of evolution and intelligence. But Elena was beginning to suspect that they were all wrong. Humanity had not been discovered 50 years ago. Humanity had been here all along, sleeping in the darkness between the stars, waiting for the right moment to wake up and reclaim their birthright. As Elena prepared for Jake's arrival, she could not shake the feeling that she was about to witness, the beginning of something that would shake the galaxy to its very foundations. Captain Jake Sullivan stared at the massive structure floating in the dead space before his ship. The Aurora hung silent in the darkness, her crew pressed against the viewports to see the impossible sight. How big is it, Lisa? Jake asked his navigation officer. Lisa Park checked her readings twice before answering. 15 kilometers long, Captain, and that's just the main section. The whole complex stretches for over 50 kilometers. Engineer Danny Chen whistled softly. It's like a city in space, but who could have built something this huge? Jake thought about Elena's message and the ancient symbols she had found. The coordinates from the crystal data cores had led them here, to this dead system where no life should exist. Yet here was proof that someone had not only lived here, but had built on a scale that made current galactic architecture look like children's toys. Take us closer, Lisa. But keep the shields up and weapons ready. The Aurora moved slowly toward the structure. As they got closer, more details became visible. The hull was made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols were carved along its length, symbols that Jake recognized from Elena's. "Transmissions, Captain," Danny said from his engineering station. "I'm reading power signatures. This thing isn't completely dead." "What kind of power?" "I don't know. It's unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns are organized, like it's sleeping, not broken." Jake made a decision that would haunt him for days to come. "Danny, Lisa, we're going aboard. Full environmental suits and recording equipment. If something happens to us, the ship's computer has orders to return to Earth with all our data." An hour later, the three humans floated through an open docking bay that seemed designed for ships much larger than the Aurora. Emergency lighting flickered along the walls, casting strange shadows as they moved deeper into the structure. "The air is breathable," Danny reported, checking his scanner. "Oxygen and nitrogen mix, just like Earth normal. Temperature is cold, but not freezing." They walked through corridors that stretched beyond their helmet lights. The walls were covered with more of the strange symbols, but also with images that made Jake's heart race. The images showed star systems, planets being changed and shaped, and beings in flowing robes who looked unmistakably human. "Jake," Lisa whispered, "look at this." She was standing before a wall covered with what looked like a star map. The map showed the galaxy, but not as they knew it. This map showed thousands of systems connected by flowing lines like trade routes or communication networks. Many of the systems were marked with symbols they had seen before. "It's a map of the galaxy," Jake said. "But look at all those connections. Whoever made this controlled huge portions of space." They continued deeper into the structure until they found what they were looking for. The chamber was enormous, filled with rows upon rows of crystalline pods. Each pod was large enough to hold a person, and most of them glowed with a soft blue light. Danny approached one of the pods carefully. "Jake, you need to see this." The pod was transparent, and inside was a human being. Not an alien that looked like a human, but an actual human. The person was a woman with dark hair and features that could have belonged to any person walking the streets of Earth. She was dressed in clothes made of materials Danny did not recognize, but her face was peaceful, as if she were simply sleeping. "How is this possible?" Lisa whispered. Jake moved from pod to pod, each one containing a perfectly preserved human being. Men, women, children, all in the same peaceful sleep. The technology keeping them alive was beyond anything the Galactic Coalition possessed. "Danny, can you tell how long they've been here?" Danny ran his scanner over several pods. The results made him check his equipment twice. "Jake, according to this, these people have been in stasis for over 50,000 years. The three humans stood in silence, trying to process what they had found. 50,000 years ago, when Earth was still in the Ice Age, humans had been building cities in space and preserving their people in stasis chambers. "Captain," Danny said, his voice shaking, "there are more chambers, thousands more. This entire structure is filled with sleeping humans." Jake activated his recording equipment and began documenting everything they found. As they explored deeper, they discovered more than just stasis chambers. They found libraries filled with crystal data cores like the ones Elena had discovered. They found workshops with tools and machines that seemed to bend the laws of physics. They found star charts showing terraformed worlds across the galaxy. But the most shocking discovery came when they found the central archive chamber. The room was filled with crystalline pillars that hummed with energy. When Jake touched one of the pillars, it activated, projecting images into the air around them. The images told a story that changed everything they thought they knew about human history. They showed a vast civilization called the Terran Dominion, spanning thousands of star systems. The humans of this ancient empire were master builders and creators. They had technology that could reshape planets, create new forms of life, and travel between stars as easily as walking between rooms. The images showed fleets of ships larger than cities, traveling to empty worlds and transforming them into gardens. They showed humans working alongside strange alien creatures, teaching them and helping them grow. They showed a civilization built on exploration, creation, and the sharing of knowledge. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to one of the projected images. "They're showing worlds being terraformed. But Jake, I recognize some of these star systems." Jake studied the images carefully. Lisa was right. Several of the worlds shown in the ancient records were currently inhabited by coalition races. The Zephyrian homeworld was there, shown as a barren rock being transformed into a lush garden world. "They created the worlds that the aliens live on now," Jake said slowly. "The coalition races aren't native to their planets. They evolved on worlds that ancient humans terraformed." The implications were staggering. The arrogant Zephyrians, who looked down on humans as primitive newcomers, were living on a world that humans had created for them tens of thousands of years ago. Danny discovered another section of the archive that showed what had happened to the Terran Dominion. The images were darker, showing some kind of approaching danger. The humans had detected something coming from outside the galaxy, a wave of energy that would sterilize entire sectors of space. Rather than flee, the humans had chosen to go into stasis, leaving behind automated systems to preserve their knowledge and rebuild their civilization when the danger passed. They had sacrificed their active lives to ensure that life in the galaxy would continue. "They didn't disappear," Jake whispered. "They went to sleep to save everyone else." The final images showed the stasis chambers being sealed and the great ships being hidden in dead systems like this one. The automated systems were programmed to wait for the right conditions before beginning the awakening process. "Captain," Danny said, studying his readings, "I think the awakening process has already started. These energy signatures I'm detecting, they're not just keeping the stasis chambers running, they're sending signals." "What kind of signals?" "I think they're activation codes. This discovery, us being here, it's triggered something. Other sites across the galaxy are probably starting to wake up." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. They had stumbled onto something far bigger than they had imagined. Somewhere across the galaxy, ancient human technology was stirring to life, waiting for its descendants to return. Meanwhile, back on Kepler 442b, Elena was making discoveries of her own. The more she studied the ruins, the more evidence she found that the planet had once been home to an advanced human civilization. The architecture, the technology, even the way the city had been planned all pointed to human builders. But she also found something else. Evidence that other worlds in this sector showed signs of the same ancient human presence. The Coalition had been unknowingly living on and conquering worlds that humans had built millennia ago. As Elena worked, she noticed strange energy readings coming from deep beneath the ruins. Her equipment detected the same kind of signals that Danny was finding on the ancient space station. Something was waking up, responding to their presence. Commander Alex Torres of the Coalition Defense Force was having a very bad day. Energy surges were being reported across 7 different star systems, all in sectors that had been quiet for centuries. His superiors wanted answers, but he had no idea what was causing the disturbances. The energy signatures were unlike anything in Coalition databases. They seemed to follow patterns, as if they were some kind of communication network coming online. But who could be operating such a network without Coalition knowledge? As Alex studied the reports, he noticed something disturbing. All of the affected systems contained worlds that were considered ancient Coalition territory. Worlds that had been part of the galactic community for thousands of years. What Alex did not know was that those worlds had been sleeping, waiting for the right genetic triggers to wake them up. And now, with humans exploring their ancient heritage, those triggers were finally being activated. The galaxy was about to learn that its entire understanding of history was wrong, and the species they had dismissed as primitives were actually their forgotten creators and protectors. Dr. Elena Martinez crouched deeper in the hidden chamber beneath the ruins, her heart pounding as she studied the new crystal she had found. This one was different from all the others. It was larger, brighter, and when she touched it, images flashed through her mind like memories that were not her own. She saw a beautiful blue world covered in oceans and green continents. She saw massive ships landing on empty planets and transforming them into gardens. She saw humans working with strange machines that could change the very atoms of matter, creating mountains and seas where none had existed before. But then the images turned dark. She saw scientists pointing telescopes at the empty space between galaxies, their faces filled with fear. She saw meetings where serious people made terrible decisions. She saw the last ships disappearing into hidden places, while automated systems prepared to keep sleeping humans safe for thousands of years. Elena jerked her hand away from the crystal, gasping. The visions felt so real, as if she had lived through them herself. She quickly wrapped the crystal and added it to her growing collection of evidence. Above ground, Overseer Thakmon was having problems of his own. Energy readings were spiking, all across the planet. His technical staff could not explain what was causing the disturbances, and that made him very angry. "The human is doing something," he told his aide. "I do not trust her digging in those ruins." "Should we stop her work?" "Not yet, but watch her closely. If she has found something valuable, we will take it." What Thakmon did not know was that Elena's discoveries were triggering responses all across the galaxy. Ancient systems that had been sleeping for 50,000 years were slowly coming online, responding to signals they had been programmed to wait for. On the space station where Jake Sullivan and his crew continued their exploration, Danny Chen was mapping the full extent of the structure. What he found amazed him. "Captain, this isn't just a storage facility," Danny reported. "It's a factory, a shipyard, and it's huge." Jake followed Danny deeper into the station, through corridors that stretched for kilometers. They found manufacturing bays large enough to build ships the size of cities. They found automated systems that were beginning to hum with activity. They found computers that contained the blueprints for technology that made coalition science look like stone tools. "Danny, are you telling me this place can build spaceships?" "Not just spaceships, Jake. It can build fleets, hundreds of ships, at once. And according to these readings, it's starting to do exactly that." Lisa Park was studying the station's central computer when she made a discovery that changed everything. The computer contained detailed records of the entire Terran Dominion, including complete information about every world they had ever terraformed. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa called. "I've found records of thousands of worlds, and I recognize most of them." Jake looked at the list Lisa had compiled. World after world, system after system, all showing the same pattern. The ancient humans had found empty or lifeless planets and transformed them into perfect homes for life. "Lisa, these are coalition worlds. The Zephyrian homeworld is on this list. So is the Crystalline Empire's capital. Even Earth is here. That's not the shocking part, Jake. Look at the dates." Jake studied the timeline Lisa had discovered. Earth had been terraformed 55,000 years ago. The other coalition worlds had been created even earlier, some over 100,000 years ago. "We're not from Earth originally," Jake whispered. Earth was just another colony world. The implications hit him like a physical blow. Humanity had not evolved on Earth. They had come from somewhere else, terraformed Earth to suit their needs, and then disappeared, only to return thousands of years later with no memory of their true origins. Danny's voice crackled over the comm system. "Captain, you need to get down here right now. The factory systems are fully active." Jake and Lisa rushed to the manufacturing levels, where they found something that defied belief. Massive automated systems were building new ships using materials and energy sources they could not identify. The ships being constructed were sleek and beautiful, far more advanced than anything in the current galaxy. "How is this possible?" Lisa asked. "Where are they getting the materials?" Danny pointed to a series of machines that seemed to be creating matter from nothing. "They're manufacturing everything they need at the atomic level. They can literally build anything they want out of empty space." Jake watched the construction process with growing amazement and fear. If these ancient systems could build fleets of advanced ships, what else could they do? And more importantly, why were they doing it now? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the stasis chambers in the main sleeping area began to glow brighter than the others. The humans watched in fascination as the chamber's occupant began to show signs of waking up. The chamber opened with a soft hiss and a woman sat up slowly. She looked exactly like any human they might meet on Earth, but her clothes were made of materials that seemed to shift and change color as she moved. She looked at Jake and his crew with eyes that held the wisdom of millennia. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong. "You have returned to us at last. We have been waiting so long for our children to find their way home." Jake found his voice after a moment of stunned silence. "Who are you? How long have you been sleeping?" "I am Sarah Kim, director of the Terran Colonial Project. I have been in stasis for 51,412 years, and you are the descendants of the humans we sent to safety before the Void Storm arrived." Void Storm? Sarah stood carefully, her body adjusting to being awake after so many years. A wave of destructive energy that swept through our galaxy. We detected it coming from the space between galaxies. It would have destroyed all life in its path. She walked to the viewing port and looked out at the stars. We could have fled to another galaxy, but that would have meant abandoning all the life we had helped create. Instead, we chose to go into stasis and wait for the storm to pass. We left automated systems to protect and nurture the species we had helped evolve. Jake felt the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. The coalition races. You created the worlds they live on. We did not create the races themselves. We simply gave them perfect worlds to grow on and left subtle guidance systems to help them develop. We hoped that by the time we awakened, they would have become wise and peaceful. Lisa stepped forward. But they didn't. The coalition is built on conquest and slavery. The Zephyrians think they're superior to everyone else. Sarah's expression grew sad. Then we failed in our greatest hope. We wanted to create a galaxy of cooperation and growth. Instead, we seem to have created one of conflict and domination. Danny looked up from his workstation. "Sarah, the factory systems are building ships. Why?" "Because our awakening protocols have been triggered. Systems across the galaxy are coming online, responding to the presence of our genetic descendants. The network that has slept for 50,000 years is waking up." Jake felt a chill of fear. "What kind of network?" Sarah gestured to the viewing port, where they could see other structures beginning to light up in the distance. Defense platforms, shipyards, terraforming stations, communication relays, everything we built to maintain and protect the galaxy. "How extensive is this network?" "It spans every inhabited system in the galaxy. We built it to be invisible to developing civilizations, but powerful enough to reshape entire worlds if necessary." As if to prove her point, alarms began sounding throughout the coalition fleet. Commander Alex Torres was receiving reports of massive energy signatures appearing in dozens of star systems. Ancient structures were revealing themselves, emerging from hidden dimensions or simply powering up after eons of dormancy. On Kepler 442b, Elena was experiencing the awakening firsthand. The ruins around her were transforming, revealing technology that had been hidden for millennia. Doors that had been sealed opened to reveal chambers filled with functioning equipment. Crystals that had seemed decorative began projecting holographic displays. Overseer Thakmon arrived at the dig site with a full squad of Zephyrian soldiers, determined to seize whatever Elena had discovered. What he found instead was a human woman standing in the center of a fully functional ancient facility, surrounded by technology that made his own equipment look primitive. "Human, step away from that equipment immediately," Thakmon ordered. Elena turned to face him, and Thakmon was shocked to see that her eyes were glowing with the same blue light as the ancient crystals. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. "This facility has been activated by the presence of its builder's descendants. You are welcome to observe, but you may not interfere with its function." Thakmon raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the ground around Elena erupted in a dome of blue energy. His shots were absorbed harmlessly, and his soldiers found themselves unable to approach. "What is happening?" Thakmon demanded. Elena's expression was calm but firm. "The galaxy is remembering its true history, and that history is about to change everything you thought you knew about who rules the stars." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Ancient human technology was awakening, revealing itself to surprised coalition forces. Defensive systems that had been hidden for millennia were coming online. Captain Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Aurora as they approached the coordinates that Sarah Kim had given them. The ancient human had insisted they travel to Terra Prime, the original homeworld of humanity, located at the center of what had once been the Terran Dominion. "Jake, I'm reading massive energy signatures ahead," Lisa Park reported from her navigation station. "Whatever is waiting for us, it's big." Sarah Kim stood beside Jake, her ancient eyes reflecting knowledge that spanned millennia. "Terra Prime has been maintained by the Keepers for 50,000 years. They have been waiting for this moment longer than your entire civilization has existed." As they dropped out of faster-than-light travel, the crew of the Aurora gasped at what they saw. Before them was a world that defied every law of planetary science they knew. Terra Prime was not just alive. It was perfect. Blue oceans reflected white clouds. Green continents showed geometric patterns that could only be artificial, and 3 moons orbited in precise formation around the planet. "The entire world is a machine," Danny Chen whispered from his engineering station. "I'm reading technology everywhere. The continents, the oceans, even the moons are artificial constructs." Sarah smiled. Terra Prime was designed to be the ultimate expression of human engineering. Every atom of this world was placed with purpose. It is not just our homeworld, it is our greatest achievement. As the Aurora entered orbit, Jake could see massive structures rising from the planet's surface. Cities that stretched for hundreds of kilometers, space elevators that reached beyond the atmosphere, and orbital platforms that dwarfed anything the Coalition had ever built. "Sarah, how many people live here?" "The Keepers are not people as you understand them. They are artificial intelligences created by the original Terran Dominion. They have spent 50 millennia maintaining this world and preparing for your return." A voice suddenly filled the bridge, speaking in perfect English with tones that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Welcome home, children of Terra. We have waited so long for your return." Jake looked around in confusion. "Who's speaking?" "I am Keeper 1, first among the Guardians of Terra Prime. We have monitored your progress across the galaxy. The awakening has begun, and it is time for you to understand your true heritage." Images began appearing in the air around them, holographic displays that showed the galaxy as it had been during the height of the Terran Dominion. Millions of ships traveled between thousands of worlds. Humans worked alongside dozens of alien species, building and creating on a scale that made the current galaxy look tiny. "Your ancestors did not just terraform worlds," Keeper 1 explained. "They created entire solar systems. They moved stars to better positions. They built artificial worlds where none had existed before. They were the architects of the galaxy itself." Danny stared at the images in amazement. "They could move stars?" "The technology you see awakening across the galaxy is only a small fraction of what the Dominion possessed at its height. Your ancestors could manipulate matter at the quantum level, travel between dimensions, and even influence the fundamental forces that hold the universe together." Sarah nodded. "We had learned to work with the universe rather than against it. We did not conquer nature. We became partners with it." "But why did they go into stasis?" Jake asked. "Why not just leave the galaxy?" Keeper 1's voice became somber. "Because leaving would have meant abandoning every species they had helped create. The void storm that approached our galaxy would have destroyed all life. Your ancestors chose to sacrifice their active existence to save billions of other beings." New images appeared showing the final days of the Dominion. Humans saying goodbye to their alien friends, sealing themselves into stasis chambers, and setting up automated systems to protect the galaxy while they slept. "They could have saved themselves," Keeper 1 continued, "but they chose to save everyone else instead." Jake felt a weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "And now we're supposed to take their place?" "Not take their place. Fulfill their legacy. The galaxy needs guidance, but it must be given freely, not imposed by force." Meanwhile, Elena Martinez was discovering the full scope of the awakening network on Kepler 442b. The ruins had transformed into a fully functional facility, with technology that responded to her thoughts and movements. She could access databases that contained the history of entire civilizations, star charts that showed the galaxy in dimensions she had never imagined, and manufacturing systems that could create anything she could envision. Overseer Thakmon and his soldiers remained trapped outside the energy barrier, watching helplessly as Elena explored technology that made their own weapons and ships look like crude tools. "Human," Thakmon shouted, "you will surrender this technology to the Coalition." Immediately, Elena turned to face him through the energy barrier. "This technology doesn't belong to the Coalition, Thakmon. It never did. It belongs to the species that created the worlds you live on." "Impossible. The Zephyrian Empire has ruled for 3,000 years. The Zephyrian Empire has existed for 3,000 years on a world that humans terraformed 50,000 years ago. Your entire civilization exists because my ancestors gave you a home." Thakmon's forearms trembled with rage. "You lie. Humans are primitives, newcomers." Elena gestured to the technology around her. "Does this look primitive to you?" At that moment, Commander Alex Torres arrived at Kepler 442b with a full Coalition battle fleet. He had been ordered to investigate the energy disturbances and secure any advanced technology for the Coalition. What he found instead was a confrontation that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Alex's flagship, the Dominator, dropped out of faster-than-light travel to find Overseer Thakmon's forces surrounding what appeared to be an active alien facility. But as Alex studied the readings, he realized that the facility was not alien at all. It was human, and it was more advanced than anything in the Coalition's arsenal. "This is Commander Torres of the Coalition Defense Force," Alex broadcast to the surface. "All human personnel will surrender immediately and turn over any technology to Coalition authority." Elena's voice replied from the facility. "Commander Torres, you are welcome to land and discuss this situation, but I will not surrender technology that belongs to my people." Alex decided to make a show of force. He ordered his fleet to target the facility with their most powerful weapons. The energy beams lanced down from orbit, striking the barrier around Elena's position. The beams were absorbed harmlessly, and in response, new structures began rising from the ground around the facility. Alex watched in growing alarm as defense platforms emerged from hidden underground chambers, their surfaces gleaming with the same blue energy that protected Elena. "Commander," his weapons officer reported, "those platforms are targeting our ships. Energy readings are off the scale." Alex had been trained to fight against Coalition technology. He had no idea how to deal with weapons that predated his entire civilization by 50,000 years. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Alex ordered. "Prepare for defensive." His order was cut short as beams of blue energy reached out from the platforms. But instead of destroying his ships, the beams simply stopped them in place. The entire Coalition fleet found themselves held motionless in space, their weapons disabled and their engines shut down. Elena's voice came over the communication system, calm and patient. "Commander Torres, your weapons cannot harm this facility, and your ships are now safely contained. I suggest we talk." Alex stared at his displays in shock. His entire fleet had been neutralized without a single shot being fired in anger. The humans had not destroyed his ships or killed his crews. They had simply demonstrated that they could do so any time they chose. "How?" Alex whispered. "Because we built the galaxy you live in," Elena replied. "And we remember how to control it." On Terra Prime, Jake and his crew were learning about the true extent of the Awakening Network. Keeper 1 showed them images of ancient facilities coming online across the galaxy. Shipyards that could build vessels the size of small moons. Terraforming stations that could reshape entire worlds in a matter of days. Communication networks that spanned the galaxy instantaneously. "The network has been designed to activate gradually," Keeper 1 explained. "We do not wish to cause panic or destruction, but the galaxy must understand that humanity's return is not a conquest. It is a homecoming." Sarah Kim walked to the viewing port and looked out at the stars. "For 50,000 years we dreamed of this moment. We hoped that when we awakened, we would find a galaxy at peace, where all species worked together for the common good. But that's not what we found, Jake said. No. We found a galaxy divided by fear and ruled by force. The coalition governs through intimidation and slavery. This is not what we intended when we shaped these worlds. Danny looked up from his console. Sarah, the network. How powerful is it really? Sarah's expression grew serious. At full activation, the network could reshape the galaxy in a matter of weeks. We could move stars, create new worlds, or unmake entire star systems. But power without wisdom is destruction. That is why the network can only be controlled by consensus, not force. Jake felt the weight of responsibility growing heavier. So what happens now? The Coalition Grand Fleet arrived at Terra Prime like an angry storm, 200 warships strong and bristling with weapons. Admiral Kevin Burke commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Judgment, determined to crush this human rebellion before it could spread. All ships battle formation, Burke ordered. Target the planet's surface installations. We will show these primitives the price of defying the Coalition. Captain Jake Sullivan watched the approaching fleet from Terra Prime's surface, standing beside Sarah Kim and the holographic projection of Keeper 1. The ancient human woman looked sad as she observed the ships that had come to destroy her people's homeworld. They still do not understand, Sarah said quietly. They think this is about conquest. Admiral Burke is broadcasting, Keeper 1 announced. He demands immediate surrender of all human technology and the arrest of all personnel involved in the awakening. Jake activated the communication system. Admiral Burke, this is Captain Jake Sullivan. We are willing to talk. There is no need for violence. Burke's harsh voice filled the air. There will be no negotiation with rebels and thieves. You have stolen Coalition property and activated illegal weapons. Surrender now, or face the consequences. Jake looked at Sarah, who shook her head sadly. He cannot see past his own prejudices. The Coalition has taught its people that might makes right for so long that they cannot imagine any other way. Give me a chance to try, Jake said. He opened the channel again. Admiral, you're making a mistake. The technology we've found belongs to humanity. We built the worlds your people live on. We shaped the galaxy itself. Lies, Burke shouted. Humans are newcomers, primitives who barely learned to travel between stars 50 years ago. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Keeper 1's voice carried a note of regret. The fleet is charging weapons. They intend to bombard the planet. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, as if making a difficult decision. When she opened them again, her expression was firm. Keeper 1, activate the Terra Prime defense grid. Minimum force protocols. Defense grid online. Keeper 1 confirmed. Admiral Burke watched his tactical display as energy readings spiked across the planet below. Massive structures began rising from Terra Prime's surface, sleek towers that gleamed with blue energy. More platforms emerged from hidden positions throughout the solar system. What are those? Burke demanded. His weapons officer checked his readings twice before answering. Admiral, I'm detecting over 300 defense platforms. Energy output. Sir, it's beyond our ability to measure. Burke felt a chill of fear, but his pride would not let him back down. All ships fire at will, destroy everything. The Coalition fleet opened fire with everything they had. Beams of energy and volleys of missiles streaked toward Terra Prime, enough firepower to crack the crust of a normal planet. The weapons never reached their target. Blue energy barriers appeared around the planet, absorbing the attacks harmlessly. The defense platforms responded not with destruction, but with precise beams that simply shut down the Coalition ships one by one. Within minutes, Burke's entire fleet was drifting powerless in space, their crews unharmed but their ships completely disabled. This is impossible, Burke whispered, staring at his dead control panels. Jake's voice came over the communication system, calm and patient. Admiral, your crews are safe. Your ships can be repaired. But this demonstration should show you that we are not your enemies. We simply want you to understand the truth. On Terra Prime's surface, more stasis chambers were opening throughout the ancient facilities. Humans who had slept for 50,000 years were awakening to find their descendants had finally returned. Each awakened human brought knowledge and memories that had been preserved since the height of the Terran Dominion. Sarah Kim walked among the newly awakened, greeting old friends and colleagues who had shared her long sleep. Dr. Maria Santos, the former head of terraforming operations. Engineer Robert Chen, who had designed the stasis systems. Admiral Lisa Carter, who had commanded the Dominion's exploration fleets. The galaxy has changed greatly while we slept, Sarah told them. The species we helped nurture have grown, but not always in the ways we hoped. Dr. Santos accessed the historical databases and shook her head sadly. Wars, slavery, conquest. This is not the future we dreamed of when we shaped their worlds. But it is not too late, Admiral Carter said. The network is awakening. We can guide them toward a better path. Across the galaxy, similar awakenings were taking place. Ancient human facilities hidden on thousands of worlds were revealing themselves. Stasis chambers were opening, releasing humans who carried the knowledge and wisdom of the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. On Kepler 442b, Elena Martinez was no longer alone. Other humans were awakening in chambers she had not even known existed. The facility was transforming around her, revealing its true purpose as a center for terraforming and planetary management. Commander Alex Torres, still held captive by the defense systems, watched in amazement as the humans worked with technology that seemed like magic. They could reshape matter with their thoughts, communicate across vast distances instantly, and solve problems that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. How do you do it? Alex asked Elena through the barrier. Elena smiled. We do not fight against the universe, Alex. We work with it. We understand that everything is connected, and when you truly understand those connections, you can guide them gently. But your technology, it's so advanced. Not advanced, just different. Your people focus on taking and controlling. We learn to give and nurture. That changes everything. Overseer Thakman had been silent for hours, watching the humans work. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet and uncertain. The worlds we live on, you really created them? Elena nodded. Your homeworld was a barren rock when we found it. We gave it oceans and continents, an atmosphere you could breathe, and life forms that would make it beautiful. We did the same for hundreds of other worlds. Why? Because we believed that life was precious and that every species deserved a chance to grow and flourish. Thakman stared at her with all four eyes. But we enslaved other species. We conquered and dominated. We treated your people as inferior. You did what you thought was right, based on what you had been taught. But now you have a chance to learn a different way. News of the events at Terra Prime and across the galaxy spread quickly through Coalition space. On every world, the revelation that humans had created their homes sent shockwaves through society. Some species reacted with anger and denial, others with wonder and gratitude. The Crystalline Empire was the first to break away from the Coalition. Their leaders announced that they would no longer participate in wars of conquest, choosing instead to focus on art and science. The plant-based Verdani followed soon after, declaring that they wished to work with the humans to restore damaged ecosystems across the galaxy. But the Zephyrian Empire, led by the proud High Chancellor Zektar, refused to accept the truth. He declared that the humans were using advanced illusions to trick the galaxy and ordered his remaining fleets to attack human positions wherever they could be found. The response from the awakening human network was swift but gentle. Zephyrian ships found themselves unable to fire their weapons. Their soldiers discovered that their armor would not function in the presence of human technology. Their planets experienced sudden blooms of beautiful flowers in places where weapons were stored. We will not fight you, Jake announced in a galaxy-wide broadcast from Terra Prime. But we will not allow you to harm others. Every weapon raised in anger will simply stop working. Every act of cruelty will be met with kindness. Every attempt at destruction will result in creation. High Chancellor Zektar raged and threatened, but his people began to see the futility of fighting beings who could stop their weapons with a thought and turn their warships into gardens. One by one, worlds across the galaxy chose to join the new order that was emerging. Humans shared their knowledge freely, teaching other species how to heal their environments, solve their energy problems, and work together for the common good. The slave worlds were freed not through force, but through the simple gift of technology. That made slavery unnecessary. Automated systems provided for every need, leaving all beings free to pursue knowledge, art, and personal growth. Elena Martinez became the first human ambassador to the reformed Galactic Council, where every species had an equal voice. Commander Alex Torres volunteered to help coordinate the peaceful transition of former coalition worlds. Even Overseer Thakmon, humbled by the truth of his people's history, worked to help his fellow Zephyrians understand their new place in the galaxy. Sarah Kim and the other awakened humans took on the role they had always been meant to fill, teachers and guides for a galaxy learning to live in peace. They shared the wisdom earned through 50,000 years of dreaming, and the hope that had sustained them through their long sleep. The ancient human motto, carved into every piece of their technology, became the foundation of the new galactic civilization: to nurture life, to explore the unknown, to leave the galaxy better than we found it. Terra Prime became the center of a new golden age. Its gardens hosted representatives from every world, working together to solve problems and share discoveries.